I want to bring in Norman Anderson, who is an unofficial advisor to the Trump team. Norman Anderson has a lot to do with building infrastructure projects using private money. Is that accurate, Norman? Have I got it right?
That's exactly right. Good morning.
Good morning, sir, because I think when the news broke yesterday that the Democrats have a $1 trillion infrastructure plan and you guys have a very big plan of your own using private money, when that news broke, that was the moment when the market began to climb higher. So let me see where we are now. It seems to me that we are going to get a major infrastructure plan in place fairly soon. You agree with that?
Well, I think it's inevitable that we're going to get a major infrastructure plan in place. The issue is how much of this is going to be publicly financed and how much is going to be privately financed. That's where the debate's going to happen in Congress.
Okay, now your plan is to use a lot of private money. Mr. Trump's plan is private funding of this. Is that correct?
Well, I think that's the way to think about it. But I think what you really want to say is that the country has a super opportunity to bring in money from all over the world, from pension funds here in the U.S., from individual investors to invest in infrastructure projects. And we've got a lot of projects in which you could bring in private money for immediate investment.
Well, are we going to see the days of, say, the Coca-Cola Bridge? Are we going to see McDonald's airport? I mean, is it going to be something like that? And I don't mean to be wacky here, but you know what I mean? They name stadiums, sports stadiums, after banks. Are we going to do the same thing with
politicians?
Politicians. Are we going to do the same thing with bridges if they're privately financed? Are we going to do that, Norman?
Well, I think, there's something that's called land value capture, which is very similar. If you look at the high-speed rail project between Houston and Dallas, those are going to be financed privately, but they're largely financed by real estate development in downtown Dallas and downtown Houston. And the appreciation of the land around those downtown centers, which, by the way, Stuart, is going to revitalize downtown Dallas and downtown Houston.
Okay.
So there's a huge opportunity. Naming rights would be a piece of it. If you go to a metro station in Singapore, you'll see 43, 50 stores. And those pay for the ongoing operating costs of the facilities. So the public sector, your taxes, don't have to pay for those facilities.
Last time you were on the show, I think you told me that there were, what, 60 or 70, you didn't use the expression shovel-ready, but you did say that there were 60 or 70 projects that were ready to go, would start at a moment's notice. Is that accurate?
I think that's accurate. We'll see what the Trump administration decides to do, but we actually believe there are at least 100 projects, 50 ready to go, another 50 that could follow soon afterwards, and all across the board in terms of sectors of infrastructure, from transit to electricity transmission, that high-speed rail project that we spoke about, fantastic port development logistics facility in the Baltimore area. All you have to do is raise a tunnel by 2 inches, and that project employs 17,000 people. There's just a lot that requires just a little bit to make it happen.
But who's going to rebuild LaGuardia Airport? I mean,
please, anybody.
Anybody, please.
Please.
I mean, it really is a problem for those of us who live in the New York area. But this is a serious question. I don't see how you can get private enterprise to pay for the rebuilding of LaGuardia. Can you?
Well, you already do, right? So there's already an agreement in place for 3 large companies to rebuild LaGuardia Airport. It's about a $6 billion project. The issue, I think, is how do you do that 50 times, 60 times, 70 times, and how do you do it much more quickly? What has it taken? About 15 years to get the permits in place to do LaGuardia. You need to be able to do that in a year or 2 years, 18 months, to really rebuild this country. And you can do that if you can reduce the regulatory burden on people who want to develop projects, and then you're going to bring in a tremendous amount of private capital to make those projects happen.
Well, President Trump yesterday signed an executive order whereby he would speed up, for example, the environmental review process. He's speeding it up, the permitting process. I mean, he's on this already, Norman.
He's on this, and we've got to see, it's not so much the proof is in the pudding. I see that as a first shot, a first indication, a first demonstration of leadership in the infrastructure sector from this administration. I think there's a lot more that needs to happen. As I mentioned last time, it takes 9.5 years on average to move an infrastructure project through the permitting and regulatory process. You got to get that down to way below 18 months. So we've got a document, we've got an executive order. We're going to require some legislation to move these things forward as well.
You want to take some credit for Dow 20,000? You can, you know, because you're the guy who's talking infrastructure, and I think that had a lot to do with today's rally. Norman Anderson, take a bow, take a victory lap. You're a good man, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.